Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Ipawa and I'm back again with another true crime video. Now, I would like to give a warning that I do speak of crimes of a violent and sexual nature, as well as of child abuse. So viewer discretion is advised, and if these kinds of things trigger you, I suggest that you watch my other videos on Namibia and cultural talks and whatnot. So yeah. On today's case, we'll be talking about the case of Rooinasie, also known as the Katutura Hospital serial rapist. Now, a serial rapist is defined as somebody that has raped on several occasions, and it doesn't really matter whether it's one victim or more than one victim. So somebody that rapes on several occasions is called a serial rapist. Now, Rooinasie terrorized Katutura between the year 2007 and 2010 by convincing women to follow him to a certain path with a very poignant story. Now, before we get into the case, I would like to also say that these videos are not meant to disrespect the victims or anybody else involved in this case, but merely to share or shed more light on the case. To avoid the victimization of the victims, I am not going to be mentioning their real names. However, I will be mentioning the perpetrator's real name. So, let's get into the video. On the 25th of May 2007, 13-year-old Queen went to school like any other day. She was in grade 7. She was schooling at AI Steenkamp Primary School in Katutura. Now, later that day, she went back home, and around 8 in the evening, she decided to just sit outside her house in Damara location. She was sitting on a stone and just trying to get in some fresh air when she saw a man approaching. She knew the man, and she knew him by Womyan. Womyan was an older man who was also dating Queen's mother at the time. They lived in the same street, and yeah, she knew him. He came to their house, and that was Womyan for her. So Womyan then approached Queen and asked Queen to escort him to his house to drop off a loaf of bread that he had just bought at a spaza shop, and that they would then walk back to Queen's home after they drop off the loaf of bread. And seeing as Queen knew Womyan very well, or so she thought, she followed him, and then she went to wait for him by the gate. As they reached Womyan's house, she decided to wait for him by the gate. And Womyan then went inside the house, and while Queen was standing at the gate, Womyan's brother John asked Queen to come inside, and he was asking her why she was standing outside and that she was welcome to come inside. And so Queen agreed to entering inside the house. She said that she then entered a room that Womyan and his brother John were sharing, I guess, and Womyan then asked her to have a seat, and he actually ended up offering her some of the bread that he had just came to drop off. And he then asked his brother John to excuse them because he said that he wanted to talk to Queen in person. So John then excused them, and Queen was now left with Womyan in this room by herself, and she didn't really think anything of it until she heard someone say in a threatening voice that if you don't do what I tell you, I'm going to hurt you. And she saw a knife being held on her neck, and she realized that it was Womyan, and she was surprised at the sudden change in his demeanor. Now he has become threatening. So she was still sitting in shock, and then he tells her to remove her clothes. She then protested and asked why she should remove her clothes, and Womyan said, "Just do as I say." So she realized that this was serious, and she removed her clothes, and she said that Wamian then told her to lay down on the bed, of which she did. She said that after she lay down on the bed, Wamian proceeded to come and climb on top of her, and he then started raping her. After he raped her, he stood up once again, and she said that he went to take a bottle of Vaseline to smear on his manhood and proceeded to rape her once again. He then, after he was done raping her, he then turned her around and sodomized her. Queen says that while she was being raped by Wamian, she could hear her uncle Emmanuel calling her name, but Wamian threatened her that if she responded, he would hurt her. So she kept quiet. After Wamian finished raping Queen, she then went home, and luckily for her, she went to tell her mother immediately. Her mother said that she was crying and just in distress, and her mother then took her to her grandmother's place for the time being, and she gathered some of her neighbors and relatives to go to Wamian's place, but they didn't find Wamian at his place. So they then called another neighbor, Gabriel, to help them take Queen to the hospital. So they went to Katutura hospital, where some examinations were done on Queen, and it was determined that she was indeed raped, and a rape kit was handed over to forensic investigators. They then also went to open a case, obviously, of rape, but at that time the police couldn't find Wamian. He had gone on a mini run, I guess, because the next day, Gabriel, the neighbor, the one that took Queen to the hospital, he gathered some of his friends and family also to go and look for Wamian again at his house, but he was not there. He was then told that Wamian would be at a certain bar in Okahanja Park. So they found Wamian in Okahanja Park, and it said that when Gabriel approached him, he sort of gave him a handshake as if he was going to shake his hand, but he actually ended up twisting it backwards and sort of restraining him, and they sort of arrested him, but then they took him to the police station, and he was placed under arrest by the Namibian police. Now, I'm not sure what happened to this rape case against Queen. It seems like Jan Rooinasie, or Wamian as he is known, might have gotten bail for this case. Now, I also need to mention that before this whole rape incident, Jan Rooinasie was already out on bail for a robbery that he had committed in 2005. So I don't know how he got bail once again after such a hideous crime against a child, you know, after having been out on bail already. So I guess that is just how the Namibian justice system is. And unfortunately, this was not the end of Jan Rooinasie's crimes. On the 2nd of March 2010, a young lady by the name of Janet and her friend Mina were at Katutura ShopRite. They had gone to a butchery there to go and buy some meat. So Mina then decided to send Janet to go and get an application form for her at a nearby college by the name of New Tech College. So Mina agreed to get the form for her friend, and she said she wanted to just hurry and come back. So they even exchanged shoes because she said she was wearing heels. She got flip-flops just to hurry and go and get the form for her friend. But as she was walking towards the college, she met a man at the Katutura Art Center, and he spoke to her in Damaranama. And she responded, and he then started telling her about a story of him just coming off the lift from Okahanja with his pregnant wife, and she seems to be in labor and they need her help because they have a lot of luggages that they need to carry, and the lady cannot carry them because she is in labor. So Mina then agreed to the man to helping the man, because she said that the man was acting really shaken and desperate for help, and she felt sorry for him, and she was convinced, and she went and followed him to the supposed place where he left his pregnant wife. So as they walked and started approaching the bushes near Hosiana Parish, she said that the man out of the blue just took out a screwdriver and placed it under her ribs and started swearing at her and saying that she talks too much, and started dragging her into the bushes. As he dragged her in the bushes, she said she attempted to run away from him, and he grabbed her by the collars and dragged her even further into the bushes behind Hosiana, on the side of the SWAPO headquarters or something like that. And she said that the man then proceeded to strangle her, and she lost consciousness while she was being strangled. She then woke up to the man raping her, like on top of her, raping her. And she said that the man then forced or told her to swallow his spit. He started spitting in her mouth and forced her to swallow, and out of fear of being killed, she said that she complied. But she then noticed that the man had some teeth missing in his mouth. She also said that she noticed the man had a tattoo on his arm with a flame written "De Rooinasie," which means the lost son in English. She said that after the man realized that she was looking at his face, she said that he took his cap that he was wearing and put it on her face and started strangling her once again. And she lost consciousness again. And the man turned her body, and he started having sexual intercourse with her in her anus. She then said that after he did that, he turned her again and started having or raping her vaginally once again. He then, just after he was done, he just stood up and left her. And at that time, she said that she wasn't breathing well, but she managed to stand up and walk back to her friend. They then called an aunt of hers who told them to go to Katutura hospital immediately, and they took a taxi, and examinations were done on her as well. And she was raped, and her rape kit was also handed over to investigators. The police then started looking into the case, looking for a man with missing front teeth and a tattoo written "De Rooinasie." But just weeks after the rape of Janet, another attack happened. Melissa, an 18-year-old young lady, was walking on the bridge behind Katutura Hospital. She said that she normally used the bridge to walk from school and to Gemiente. Now, I'm not sure if she was coming from school on that particular day, but she says that a man approached her and spoke to her in Afrikaans and Damara, and she said that she responded in Afrikaans. And they started a conversation whereby the man told her the story of having met a lady on a path who was heavily pregnant and unable to sort of move, or she was in labor or something like that. She then said that the man looked elderly, and she just thought it was just another innocent man looking for help for a stranger, because this time around he didn't really say the woman was his wife. It seemed more like it was just a stranger that he also bumped into. She said that the man seemed respectable. He was soft-spoken, and he just seemed like an all-in-all nice person. So she says that she then followed the man to this path where he says he met the woman, and they kept walking. I guess he wanted to see if she was suspecting anything. She says that he then just stopped out of the blue and said he heard something in the bushes. So she said that she didn't hear anything. So they stopped to listen, and then they proceeded on their journey to find this pregnant woman. So as they walked again, this man then told Melissa that he is feeling something on his t-shirt and that she should look. Just as she was looking, the man then turned around with a big butcher knife and sort of put it on her neck and said that you better do what I'm asking you to do, or I'm going to kill you here. Melissa says that the man then started strangling her and rendering her unconscious. As she got back into consciousness, she saw the man making sexual moves on top of her. She then realized that he had penetrated her and he was raping her. She said that as she was going in and out of consciousness, she heard people talking, and she said that after she heard people talking, she then saw the man lifting her up and carrying her deeper into the bush under a tree, where he proceeded to rape her. After he finished raping her, she said that he took out a piece of toilet paper from his back pocket and wiped her private parts with it and left. She then got the little strength that she had left in her to walk all the way to Katutura Hospital. The matter was reported at the Katutura's Women and Child Protection Unit, and examinations were done on her as well. And now the police were on the hunt for this rapist. They put 2 and 2 together and realized that these rapes were probably being committed by the same person, as per the descriptions of the victims. They all say that the man was of Nama descent, of brown complexion, with missing front tooth and a tattoo written "De Rooinasie" with a flame of a fire. The police then decided to recruit an informant. A certain detective, Monica Sika, who was working on the case, says she then got a call by the informant on the 27th of March, saying that the suspect, who had the same tattoo that was described by the victims and the overall description given by the victims, was at a bar in Shandubala. The detective then drove to this bar in Shandubala with another colleague and put the suspect under arrest. Jan Rooinasie had 18 charges against him. Charges included kidnapping, rape, attempted murder, crimen injuria, and many more. During his trial, Rooinasie denied all charges against him. He said that he had never even met these women before, and it was the first time seeing them in court. At some point, he even claimed that during their so-called rapes, he was in Swakopmund living with a certain family. The police then asked him to bring these family members or call them to inform them to come to court as witnesses, and he failed to do so because he said that he didn't know their address nor their numbers. He was then given another opportunity to go and point out where he lived in Swakopmund, and he also failed to do so. Now, the most damning evidence in this case came from the victims of this serial rapists themselves. They could positively identify Jan Rooinasie as the man who had raped them, and of course the tattoo that they had seen. They were smart enough to remember to actually mention this as evidence. And yeah, Jan Rooinasie was found guilty on 16 of the 18 charges that he had against him, which include attempted murder, rape, crimen injuria, and many more. He was sentenced by Judge Alfred Siboleka to 60 years in prison. Jan Rooinasie is currently serving his term in the Windhoek Central Prison Facility. I'm not going to talk about how old he's going to be when he comes out. Alright guys, that was the case of Jan Rooinasie. Let me know what you think of this case in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe and to like and to share. It really is going to help my channel a lot. And if you have any suggestions on cases that you want me to cover, please let me know in comments as well, and I might just look into them. Thank you so much for watching, and see you again next time.